The Jesse Kelly Show. Let's have some fun on a Monday. And wow, what a doozy of a Monday. If only there were things to talk about. It's going to be a huge Monday show, and I'm going to go ahead and warn you right now what I'm about to say. We're about to have a very long talk, and you are probably going to be angry at me. Go ahead and get the email ready to call me a bunch of names. That is coming almost undoubtedly, so get ready for that. A reminder, it's not your mommy's show, it's your daddy's show. We're going to have a real honest discussion like adults about this Epstein stuff, the Epstein report that's out there. And it's going to involve thinking. So Chris may struggle. I'm sure you will do fine. We have Medal of Honor Monday coming up an hour from now, as we always do. Communists standing on dead bodies to politic once again. Hollywood with yet another flop because they couldn't control themselves. Communist teachers, all that and so much more coming up tonight on the world famous Jesse Kelly Show. Let's go ahead and talk. You and me. Let's talk about this Epstein report. The report, in case you've been hiding under a rock, dropped late last night. A DOJ source leaked to Axios, it's some worthless publication, it doesn't matter, that the FBI hasn't found any evidence of a client list. They haven't found a client list, and they haven't found evidence that Jeffrey Epstein was blackmailing people. Okay. That has set the world on fire on the right. And understandably so. If this has angered you, if you blew a lid on this, I totally get it. You're angry. I'm angry that powerful people never seem to be held to account. You are angry. I am angry that the institutions we should be able to trust, DOJ, FBI, CIA, you name them, always seem to be covering up for powerful people while smashing little people. You are angry about that. I am angry about that. And so when we wake up and we open up Facebook or Twitter or wherever it may be, and we see the news that, wait a minute, so they're just going to let him go? But that's not necessarily what they said. We're going to get to that in a moment. You get mad. And I get mad. But we are going to have a discussion about what was said, what wasn't said, how things actually work. And I'm going to warn you once again that I may very well make you angry with what we're about to talk about. And so let's clarify a couple things. First, I've made people angry many times before. And you know the thing I do that makes people angrier than anything else? It's not this. It's not when I yell and scream. It's not when I make a joke or say something insensitive about people's race or religion or something like that. It's not that at all. The thing I do that makes people the most angry is I refuse to join the mob. I have always been this way. As soon as everybody seems to be getting whipped up into a frenzy about something, it creates an apprehension in me because I've seen the idiocy, the craziness, the evilness, the dishonesty, the violence of mobs time and time again in my life. So when I look around and see everybody whipped up into a frenzy, it's just my natural instinct. I pause and I pull myself out of it. Wait, hold on. Let's dig through this. That is the thing that is always, Jesse, why aren't you panicking about COVID? Everybody's going to die. Email after email after email. When I came on here, and I loudly criticized the Trump administration for 15 days to slow the spread. We got 1,000 emails that day. I must want old people to die. You must hate Trump. Ah! I will not ever join the mob. Now, right now, everybody and their brother, possibly you, they are screaming that Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, Dan Bongino are covering up for Jeffrey Epstein, covering up for a powerful person. Now, I'm not going to actually defend any of those people, so I want you to listen as we have a long discussion. Let's let the discussion begin now. First of all, let's get this out of the way. The people in the Trump administration, like Pam Bondi, like Alina Habba, and others, they did overpromise on things, trying to deliver the goods to the MAGA base, trying to deliver the goods to you and to me. They did go on the news a lot and say things like this.
But in this case, in Epstein's case, it is incredibly disturbing. We have flight logs, we have information, names that will come out.
Is it going to be shocking?
I don't see how it's not shocking that there were so many individuals that were hidden and kept secret and not been held accountable. Let's talk about the reverse. I believe in accountability. So you have to now go through your process. Now, I won't say they're guilty until they go through their time in court. But again, now it's time for accountability.
It's time for accountability. We have information. We have names. We have flight logs. You want to see that? I want to see that. Okay. Let's pause on that for a moment. Why haven't you seen that? Again, a lot of this stuff is going to make you mad, so I'm not joining the mob. Why haven't you seen that? Well, is it a criminal act to fly on somebody's private jet? Is it? If somebody came to you today and said, hey, I've got this sweet private jet down at the airfield. I am going to go to the Bahamas. I like you. We laugh. We have a good time. You want to come down to the Bahamas with me? We'll go down, sip on some Mai Tais, lay on the beach, fly on my private jet. Did you commit a crime? Now, look, I'm not defending the Bill Clintons of the world and I'm not, but is flying on Jeffrey Epstein's private jet a crime? Why do you think they haven't released the flight logs? Because everyone who flew on the jet wasn't a criminal. Didn't necessarily commit an act of crime. Many, I'm sure, did. Again. But when you put that out there on the news, you have to understand that that is going to create a frenzy in people. They are going to want to see it. Okay, clearly there's a flight log. What is the flight log in the minds of most people? It's a list of the criminals, the powerful criminals who are committing acts of crimes, and therefore I want to see the list. But again, it's your daddy's show, not your mommy's show. That's not true. Just because you flew on Jeffrey Epstein's private jet, no, I never did, by the way. Just because you flew on Jeffrey Epstein's private jet does not make you a criminal. It does not. You may be a criminal. You may not. People used to deal with Al Capone, who were totally legitimate businessmen. It's not against the law to meet with Al Capone. It's not a crime. Okay? Let's go on to something else. Let's talk about the client list, because that's the one that's really got people angry today. Hey, we haven't found evidence of a client list. Okay? I've talked about this. You've talked about this. Now, what image do you have in your head? I'll tell you what I have in my head. I bet you it's very similar. When you hear a Jeffrey Epstein client list, here's what I picture. I picture a document. Maybe it's a notebook, an old school notebook. You write things down. Maybe it's on a computer, Microsoft Word, something like that. And here are the list of names. These are the wealthy, powerful men who I have sucked into my disgusting criminal world. This is the list of names, and right beside that list is a column of the crimes they committed. It's a document that clearly reveals all of the criminals and their criminal deeds. Now, pause for a moment. Again, let's set our emotions aside and let's be adults for a moment. Do you think that list exists? If you and me, if we decided to go down and rob a bank, let's say let's say I decide I'm going to film the whole thing. I'm going to record it on my phone. And we're successful. We go down there. Hey, everybody, put your hands in the air. We take a bunch of money out of the bank, and I record it all on my phone. We snap a selfie on the way out. Woo, look at our cash. Do you think you would want me to hang on to that video? Or maybe it would be better to get rid of it? You really think there's just a list with everybody's name and deeds on it? We're going to have a very long talk here in a moment. It is the Jesse Kelly Show on a wonderful, wonderful Monday, making everybody angry about the Epstein stuff as we walk through reality versus fake. We're not going to join the mob. We're going to be adults. We're going to think about things. There's a leak out there that there's no Epstein client list, that there's no evidence that he was blackmailing powerful people. Okay, so let's dig into that one there. There's no evidence that he was blackmailing people. That's what it said. There's no evidence. All right. Well, I touched on that before we went into the break. No evidence? What do criminals do with evidence? They destroy it. Let me ask you something. Do you remember when I came on here in March and I started screaming about not just the shooting down of Matt Gaetz as AG, but the unbelievable delay in Kash Patel's nomination, Pam Bondi's nomination? Remember Donald Trump, fresh after an election, an incredibly popular moment for him, he was getting every one of his nominees through, even ones that were completely outside of the norm. Completely outside of the norm. The RFKs of the world, Pete Hegseth, but he would, I love all those picks, by the way, but they were all getting through. The system, the Republicans in the House, in the Senate, everybody seemed to be getting behind Trump. Whatever nominee he wants, that's what nominee he gets. He's the president. He won the election. He gets who he wants, except for one. What was the one? Matt Gaetz for Attorney General. And Matt Gaetz was the first one, the first name Donald Trump put out. So when Donald Trump was at maximum popularity, we are fresh off the election. You could still smell it at that point in time. It is the ultimate honeymoon phase. He puts forward Matt Gaetz and the system said, oh, no way, not a chance. Okay? Combine that with what I said back here in March. Trump was sworn in on January 20th, but there were some, you know what? No, Chris, I'm going to do that clip there's two of these. Here's my original clip. Go ahead, Chris. Almost universally, great military commanders believed in speed. Genghis Khan was infamous for this. Genghis Khan would just show up outside of your city. You had heard he was coming yesterday, and people don't move that quickly, right? But Genghis Khan knew, I have to go quickly. It helps me, it hurts them. Julius Caesar was infamous for this. All the writings still talk about it to this day. Famous for it. Did I already say Alexander the Great? He might be the most famous one for this. He drove the Persians insane. They brought these huge armies out. But wait a minute, he's fighting us here? He's not supposed to be here yet. Why? How is he? Speed. Speed matters in life. And it most definitely matters in competition. And I'm very, very, very frustrated right now with the Senate GOP at the speed with which these confirmations are coming down. Why do I not have Attorney General Pam Bondi yet? Why do I not have Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth yet? By the grace of God, we got John Ratcliffe, CIA, in today, but it's still January 23rd. It's Thursday. It's been 4 days. We have heard from how many people and how many different reports have I brought you about what is happening inside the walls of the federal government? Our federal government is a corrupt criminal enterprise occupied by communists from top to bottom, communists who have waged war on you for the last 10, 15 years, and those communists are digging in. They are shredding papers. They are changing titles. They are deleting emails. They are doing everything they can do to burrow themselves into the government as deep and fast as they can before the reformers can get there. The ditches are getting deeper. The booby traps are getting deadlier. Why was Attorney General Pam Bondi not confirmed 35 seconds after Donald Trump was sworn into office? Why is the GOP Senate so weak and pathetic at best, at worst, complicit in the destruction of this country? Where is John Thune? Where are these leaders? On January 20th, the day Donald Trump was sworn in, it should have been vote Hegseth, yes. Vote Bondi, yes. Vote RFK, yes. Vote Ratcliffe, yes. It could have been boom, 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 boom. We've got them lined up every 15 minutes. It's vote time. Let's go, baby. Get them in there. But no. Every single day, the communists in the government who are still very much still in the government are digging in, and the fortifications are getting deeper and wider and more difficult to overcome, and they are moving quickly. What did you think the government was doing? Let's just, for the sake of argument, say they had a client list. Videotapes, pictures, the works. And let's say they were involved in all that stuff. And they most definitely were involved. We'll get to that in a moment. Do you think they were just going to wait around for Kash Patel to walk in the office and pick that folder up? Do you remember the day we told you about the gigantic paper shredder truck parked outside of the DOJ? What do you think they were doing there? Having a smoke? We'll continue. Hang on. It is the Jesse Kelly Show on a wonderful Monday. Remember, you can email the show all your hate because I'm not joining the rage mob. You can email love, hate, death threats, whatever you'd like. Jesse@jessekellyshow.com. And Chris, don't you ever insult Neil Diamond again. That's a great song. Neil Diamond has great tunes. Is he still alive? Is he Jewish? I think he's Jewish, right? What, Chris? I thought you would stick together. I think he's Jewish. Man, dude, he's great. Dude, Neil Diamond's great. Anyway, just because Jewish producer Chris has no taste in music, we're not going to let him distract us from talking about the Epstein client list, FBI, DOJ, CIA, government stuff. And yes, Medal of Honor Monday is coming up a half hour from now. So let's talk about this. Because remember, I'll play you one more flashback and then we'll dig into this. Remember when I said this? Trump was sworn in on January 20th, but there were some specific nominations that kept getting kicked down the road. And you remember what I screamed about during that rant, that speed matters. The reason you need to move fast is so you can wrong foot the enemy. The reason you don't want to delay is because every day you delay, it's a day the enemy's trenches get deeper, his walls get higher. And I'm looking at an article here from February 6th. This is from ABC News. Committee vote on Kash Patel's nomination to be FBI director is delayed after Democrats object. Why? Because maybe you're sitting there saying, well, they're Democrats, they're going to lock shields, they're going to object. Yes, Democrats opposed pretty much every one of Trump's nominees, almost universally, with the exception of Rubio. Democrats voted against almost all of them, but they didn't delay them. But Kash Patel, head of the FBI, it really took a while. Tell you what, pause on that. We'll come back to it. Pam Bondi, she was one of the last ones as well. And in fact, Pam Bondi was choice number 2. Donald Trump's first choice to be Attorney General was Matt Gaetz. Think about the GOP senators and how they reacted to other Trump nominees. They tried to raise a stink about Hegseth and got smacked around for it. But other than that, they confirmed all of them. RFK confirmed them all. Yet Matt Gaetz, Attorney General, he was a bridge so far that they couldn't whip the votes for him and dumped him in a couple days. Then they went with option B, Pam Bondi, and kept her to the end. Okay, now let's go back to the Kash Patel thing. Donald Trump was sworn in on January 20th. 16 days after that, the Senate Democrats came out and they announced, Kash, we're delaying him. But again, I ask you, why? They weren't going to stop him. Even when they were asking the hard questions about this or that or the book he wrote, there was never even the tiniest bit of movement in the Senate GOP indicating the GOP was going to vote against Kash Patel. Kash Patel becoming FBI director was never, ever, ever in doubt. He had, as far as I can tell, universal GOP support in the Senate. So why delay him? Why is it that the head of the FBI, you want to wait as long as humanly possible before he takes over? What do you think the communists were doing with these delays? I warned you back in January. I think it was 3 days after Trump's nomination. I was on the radio screaming. This is as close as I got to screaming. This is too slow. Why? Because I knew exactly what the communists were doing. The day after election night. Election night's on a Tuesday, the first Tuesday in November. Wednesday, I promise you, the secret police agency was making preparations. That was me back in March. Do you remember, speaking of the Epstein stuff, when Pam Bondi, remember, she's Attorney General, top law enforcement officer in the United States of America. FBI very much works for her, under her. Remember when she said, hey, New York, FBI, give me those Epstein files now. I promised them for the people. Remember how that went?
A source told me New York, SDNY, they're sitting on thousands of pages of documents regarding Epstein. Thousands. And of course, you've seen the very strong letter. We will get everything. We will have it in our possession. We will redact it, of course, to protect grand jury information.
They stonewalled the Attorney General to the point the head of the New York FBI office had to be relieved of duty. They forced him to retire early because the Attorney General, his boss, said, give me your Epstein files. And he said, man, I'd love to, but I guess I'm golfing today. Here's another very interesting article. Maybe you haven't heard this story before. It's from quite some time ago, but the headline is FBI is demanded to release hundreds of missing, stay with me, Jeffrey Epstein documents, including tapes, CDs, passports, pictures, so on and so forth. But this is such an interesting part of the article. You have to go several pages, several paragraphs down, but here's a quote. FBI agent, by the way, just to set this up, this is in Jeffrey Epstein's Manhattan home. He had a really nice fancy townhouse in Manhattan in New York City, okay? FBI gets a warrant, they go in. Listen to this from the article. FBI agent Kelly McGuire testified her team located the items within a safe in a property, but did not have a warrant to remove them. When the FBI agent returned, the items were reportedly missing. If you'd like to see what those items looked like, the picture is actually available online. You can go look at it. It's a big drawer full of DVDs and things. The Federal Bureau of Investigation executed a search warrant on Jeffrey Epstein's home in New York upon discovering a treasure trove of information. They said, hey, I guess we can't take that. They left. They notified Epstein's people who went and cleaned out the drawer before the FBI could come back. Have you ever heard of John Connolly? That name ring any bells? I guarantee you know what's amazing about this? I guarantee you everybody listening to me on WRKO Boston has heard of that name, and probably nobody else in the country. But John Connolly, who was John Connolly? John Connolly was an FBI agent. He came up in Boston. Why is he important? Well, he ended up going to prison. Why? What did he do? Well, in John Connolly's childhood, he got to know somebody in his neighborhood. Tough kid, boxer, kind of a criminal. Somebody you've heard of before. Somebody by the name of Whitey Bulger. Whitey Bulger was famously the Boston area crime boss of bosses. Quick note, pause on this. Speaking of WRKO, if this story at all interests you, and I'm not going to go into a big Whitey Bulger thing, Howie Carr, great, legendary radio host Howie Carr, he did an amazing podcast on this entire story called Dirty Rats. It's all about Whitey Bulger and John Connolly and all that. So if you'd like more on this story, Dirty Rats is the name of the podcast. Great podcast. I geeked out on it. Anyway, back to it. John Connolly, he got to know Whitey Bulger as a child. They chose different paths, to put it mildly. John Connolly joined the FBI. Whitey Bulger, he chose to become a criminal. A prominent criminal. We'll pick up that tale in just a moment. It is the Jesse Kelly Show on a wonderful, wonderful Monday, 10 minutes away from Medal of Honor Monday. If you miss any part of the show, you can download the whole thing, iHeart, Spotify, iTunes. Also, we are on in Buffalo now. Shout out to the amazing WUSW for welcoming the Jesse Kelly Show family. And I apologize ahead of time for all the hate mail. All right, back to our little story here. John Connolly worked for the FBI. Somebody who knew from childhood, Whitey Bulger chose a different path, chose to become essentially a mob boss, a crime lord. This is all in Boston, the Boston area. They figured out an arrangement that worked well for them. The arrangement was this. Whitey Bulger, being as how he's a crime lord, he knows where all the bodies are buried. He knows who the players are. He knows the structure of the different criminal elements in the area. He has a wealth of information that he can hand to John Connolly. John Connolly is aspirational, as most people are, certainly young men, no matter what field they're in. John Connolly at the FBI wants to be promoted, wants to make a name for himself, become a great crime fighter. What a gold mine it would be to have somebody handing you information on criminals. Think about how many people you could bust. Think how good you would look to your boss, promotions, the works. But Whitey Bulger is not going to do that for free. He's not only a criminal, he's a human being. You know, give and take. Whitey Bulger wanted protection from his crimes, for his crimes. John Connolly came to an arrangement with Whitey Bulger, an arrangement John Connolly ended up going to prison over. John Connolly would protect his source, his asset. In exchange, Whitey Bulger would give him information. This is not a story about John Connolly in particular. It's actually not even a story about just the FBI. This is FBI, CIA, local police forces, law enforcement agencies, intelligence agencies. When they have somebody feeding them information, they take unbelievable steps to protect that person from prosecution, from getting in trouble. If you believe, as I do, that Jeffrey Epstein was working with the government, probably CIA, maybe FBI, but I will tell you, really sharp people like Mike Benz insist it's the CIA. They insist he's been CIA since 1980s, but it doesn't matter the government agency. then you obviously know that whatever government agency was working with Jeffrey Epstein was also at the same time protecting Jeffrey Epstein. He was providing things. They were in exchange providing him with things that would, of course, include protection. Pam Bondi, and you know, I've criticized Pam Bondi, and I will continue to do so. It's not like I'm some Pam Bondi fan at all. Pam Bondi is taking all kinds of heat today because of this leak that what do you mean there's no client list? What do you mean there's no evidence? Peter Ducey's asking her about it.
According to the report.
Sorry, he's asking Caroline Levitt about it.
According to the report, this systematic review revealed no incriminating client list. So what happened to the Epstein client list that the Attorney General said she had on her desk?
Well, I think if you go back and look at what the Attorney General said in that interview, which was on your network on Fox News.
Got the quote.
Go ahead.
John Roberts said, DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients. Will that really happen? And she said, it's sitting on my desk right now.
This is that interview.
The DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients. Will that really happen?
It's sitting on my desk right now to review.
What was actually sitting on her desk? She didn't use the word list. He used the word list. All the information that was given to her by the FBI. All the information that was given to her by the FBI. That does not mean that's all the information the FBI possessed or ever possessed. We know the FBI left critical criminal pieces of information in Jeffrey Epstein's townhouse to be hoovered up by Jeffrey Epstein's people to protect him. We know that. We know law enforcement agencies will cover up for criminals to protect them from prosecution. We know that. We know all these things. This was not an hour-long rant to defend Pam Bondi or Kash Patel or any of those things. You are well aware of my stance that the FBI should cease to exist. This is me telling you, maybe there is no client list. Maybe if there ever was a client list, it got deleted, shredded, covered up long ago. If the FBI, CIA, any of these organizations were complicit in crimes, in order to avoid public scrutiny, in order to avoid the wrath of Congress, Donald Trump, do you think they wouldn't destroy the evidence? I don't cheer for this. I'm not celebrating anything I'm telling you right now. I bet you they destroyed anything that could have made them look bad. That's what criminals do. Criminals destroy evidence. You know, we talk about the mafia all the time. The mafia kills people. You know that. And sure, they kill people for business reasons. There's no question. But what's one of the main driving factors for the mafia killing people? Find somebody with a bunch of shots in the back of his head? Well, that human being is a witness, has information inside of their head that could send people to prison. So you eliminate that evidence. You get rid of it. What is the largest criminal organization on planet Earth? The United States government. Agencies inside of the government, FBI, CIA, are the worst criminal organizations on the planet. Did you think they had an FBI, CIA, Jeffrey Epstein list of clients and their crimes sitting in a Microsoft Excel document waiting for Kash Patel to find it? I know this hurts. I know you're mad. Sorry. It's reality. I believe it's gone. Could be wrong, but I believe it's gone.